Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. You can also stream us at am950radio.com. But meet the morning stars. You can be in on the conversation. See, Bernadette's over there, Ashley down in Memphis. So many of you are there already. Oh, Andre, everybody, please, everybody, get on over to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel and like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Please, thumbs up, everybody, thumbs up. And go to the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. I need you there. Become my friend there. That's the only place where I can accept friendship. And then, of course, on X at Santita J. We've got a lot to talk about today. We are less than 60 days out from the election. It's unbelievable, everybody. Unbelievable. It seems like we're still litigating 2020, but it is 2024. It's a new day and hopefully a new way. Certainly, we're going to see where this election is going to go. And we got a lot to talk about there because we're seeing that Vice President Kamala Harris just continues to break records in fundraising. And yet, the polling numbers, as strong as they are, they need to be stronger for her in the Black community in order for her to win. One of the things that we learned from the Jackson campaigns, and you saw it manifest in the Obama campaign, is that you have to have an overexcited, if you will, Black electorate for a Black candidate to get through. I don't care how much you cross over. That's just how it is. And she's still stuck in the high 70s. We need to get her to 95% at least. Yeah, it seems like a high mountain to climb, but it's doable. How do we do that? And what about the uncommitted movement? We're going to be talking about that in the next hour. But first, let's talk about what's happened in Georgia at this high school. 4 people killed, 2 students, 2 teachers, 9 people injured. And yet there were red flags, Attorney C.K. Hoffler, past president of the National Bar Association, of course, legal analyst on Court TV, chair of Rainbow Push, Daryl Jones, former prosecutor, the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition, violence interrupters, T.O. Hardeman. You deal with these kinds of issues all the time. You're trying to stop these kinds of actions that we saw down in Georgia. Reverend Marshall Hatch, you're trying to counsel people, but you understand that there's a sickness in the society. Attorney Linda Bernard, she is on the board of the police in Detroit. She's also the first African American to get a master's in law from UPenn's law school. Brilliant litigators, won 3 cases before the Michigan State Supreme Court. So I want to really go over this, what happened here, because we are now beginning to see increasingly parents who are being held accountable for the crimes of their children. And in this case, it's very, very interesting. Colt Gray, 14 years of age, walked into his school, killed 2 teachers, killed 2 students, injured 9 other persons in the school. And yet he was interviewed by law enforcement last year. Yeah. And when he was 13, C.K. Hoffler, and yet they said, well, not that there's nothing to see here, but there's nothing we can get him on. It's kind of interesting that they would do that. He was flagged. And then with all of the troubles, because it turns out there's evidence of domestic violence in his parents' home. His mother has certainly taken drugs, maybe struggles with addiction. And in fact, there's a warrant out for her arrest today. He's from a troubled background, and that's something to which we must pay attention. But, it's very interesting. We pathologize Black and brown children, and we understand white ones. I don't think that we should not understand any child, but I hope that the compassion and the understanding, taking apart his family, seeing how and where he might have gone wrong. If that's going to happen for him, it should happen for all of our children. But that having been said, we are a nation in trouble, because Ariel Gold yesterday from the Fellowship of Reconciliation said this is another back to school shooting. Wow. We used to get back to school clothes, CK, and backpacks and lunchboxes. And now It's back to school shootings. They have shooting drills. We used to have fire drills. That's what's in my recollection. So we got a tremendous panel, big panel, but I want to hear from everybody today. Of course, Daryl is a former prosecutor, and of course, you've done your fair share of litigating, Attorney Linda Bernard. But let me start with you, Attorney Hoffler, because I know that you all are dealing with this on court TV. Can you give us an overview of what this case is about? What happened here?
Well, absolutely. This is tragic, and I too, Santita, believe that if we're going to show compassion towards our children, we need to show compassion towards all children in terms of looking at the households that they live in and the circumstances surrounding their upbringings. But of course, we don't see that in Black and brown families whenever there are crimes that are committed. But putting that issue aside, Colt Gray, amazingly, when he was in court today, he and his father were in court. Colin Gray's his father. His father was very emotional, but
Mm-hmm.
Colt Gray showed absolutely positively no emotion.
Mm.
Very, very interesting. Um, he shot, he went into the school. There were all kinds of red flags, all kinds of signals that he was very disturbed and that he came, and they know what kind of household he came from because his father understood he was very disturbed. There were red flags. The GBI, the FBI, all of these entities understood that, and they had him on watch. And with all of that information, the father gave him a rifle, the rifle that he used as a Christmas present. And so it was not surprising with the troubles he was facing that at home, which a lot of people come from broken homes and difficult homes, and they don't go and shoot up at schools. So the fact that he did what Ethan Cromley did in Oakland County, Michigan, but Ethan Cromley was 15 years old. This young man is 14 years old. Is very, very upsetting, but not surprising given the crisis that we're in, Santita. So he went to this school and he basically shot, and killed 4 people, 2 Black and brown children.
Mm-hmm.
The victims, the children victims, were Black and brown. One was African American and one was Latino,
Mm-hmm.
and the 2 teachers were white teachers. This is just, this is in an area. My parents actually live not far from this area.
Mm.
This is perceived as a pretty safe community. The schools are pretty good. It's a very mixed community. And so when it just broke my heart to see the parents running, because it's in somewhat of a rural area,
Mm-hmm.
in the outskirts of Atlanta, running to the field to see if their kids had been impacted. And so that this young boy who was 14 years old, even though he's going to be tried like an adult, the distinction is he's not going to face the death penalty. Had he been an adult, tried like an adult, he would be facing the death penalty. But he's not going to be facing the death penalty, but he is going to be facing, certainly for the deaths and all the shootings and the cruelty to children and the attempted murders, life in prison with or without the possibility of parole. The judge made that very clear. He originally misstated the law and said that he would be facing the death penalty, but he won't because he's a minor. His father is charged also very significantly and will be facing for sure life in prison with or without the possibility of parole for his role in this. When you have parents who facilitate, when you know that there is mental instability or mental illness in the home, and you have guns in the home, you have ammunition in the home, and then you go out and buy a rifle, the rifle that he actually uses to kill the people and to go to school with, and you know that your son is enamored and fascinated with guns, and you get him this as a gift at I think he was 13 turning 14 when he got the gift from his father, then you do bear some culpability. So this is going to be a case much like the case in Michigan and Oakland County, which I've commented a lot on at Court TV, where the father is charged, the mother will likely be charged, and their whole household and their homes will be on display. And they have to be on display because the prosecutor is going to have to establish that because of the actions of the parents, they should be held criminally liable. So to establish that, they're going to have to be able to paint the picture of what was going on at home. It's almost enough that the father understanding, and with law enforcement keeping their eye on him, but not being on both of them, not just him, but on both of them, but not being able to arrest them earlier or intervene earlier. The father, knowing all that, bought a rifle, an assault weapon for this child that he used in killing these poor innocent victims at the school. That's almost enough for the prosecutor to make out a case. But they're going to delve deeper. I bet there are text messages, there are probably emails, there's probably a manifesto. There are statements where he's clearly troubled. He talks about shooting. He talks about shooting up the school. There's a lot of evidence that we know right now that this child was clearly on a path towards killing, and he was going to do it at the school, and yet no one, not a single adult, intervened to stop him. And that's why these parents are going to be on the hook, because they had the power to do it, and they saw this, they knew this was going on in their own household.
Unbelievable. Daryl Jones, I'm asking you to put on your hat as a former prosecutor. What is the prosecution looking for?
Wow. Well, interestingly, the prosecution in this case, the part with Colt Gray, the 14-year-old, they have everything they need. They have all the information they need. They have the witnesses. They have all the information they need in the prosecution of Colt Gray. What becomes interesting for the prosecution in the Colt Gray matter is going to be dealing with all the psychological aspects of what's going on there. It's really going to be more of a mental health issue on the defense side of what they're going to be presenting. The prosecution side of the shooter, I think, is very clear. When it comes to Colin Gray, the father, or to the mom, what they're going to be looking for is what we call, any damn fool knows, right? Any damn fool knows that if you see all of this going on in this child's life and you're getting this child a gun, you know what's getting ready to happen, and you should be held responsible for it. That's part of what the prosecution is going to be looking for. They're going to be going through all of the text messages. They're going to be going through any information they can find between father and son with regards to handguns. Was he teaching them? Was he taking them to a range to practice shooting? Were there other indicators that the father knew or should have known that Colt Gray was on the brink of doing this? The other thing that is not spoken yet, and I have not heard much mention of, I would believe that you would also know that something was going on at that school. That there's some administrators and some other folks that are there that have some indication that something's going on with this 14-year-old kid. And as CK was so clearly laying out, this wasn't a situation where it was a one-off, where it just happened for a week or two. This is something that we've known has been going on for at least a year, from when the kid was 13 years old. So there's a lot of information that the prosecutors will be able to pick apart with regards to services that should have been provided to the kid, services that the parents should have done, steps that they should have taken, that will all come to and come through when they're talking about this cruelty to children charge, which is what allows them to be able to charge the murder charge and the involuntary manslaughter charge with the parents in this situation. So the prosecution is going to be digging into to Colt's life to find out how much information is there and what the parents knew and what the parents should have known in bringing this case.
Because really, he's got a broken home life. And like I said, they're beginning to talk about that, but that is something that whenever you see this, well, when you see Black children get into trouble, number one, they're not children. They're automatic. They're adultified, quite frankly. And that's something that we've got to look at. But, legally, before I get into, because we've got Dr. LaShawn Latrice who's joined us as well. She's a community psychologist, because I'm mindful of the fact, CK, you're a mom, she's a mom, you all are parents here. You're dealing with a 14-year-old mind. Dr. Carl Bell, may he rest in peace, one of the preeminent psychiatrists of our time, always reminded us, you are not really an adult until you're 25. That's when really your brain comes together. He said, so everything you do before 25, he said, it's a wash. because you're thinking, you don't think like an adult. Everything, all the synapses have not connected. It's something to think about. I'm not looking for excuses, I'm looking for reasons. And we've got to, because something is going on here. But let me go to you, attorney Linda Bernard. What do you make of this case? Do you think, because now we're in a space where we are charging parents, we're punishing parents for, or holding them accountable for their children's crimes?
For me, Santita, and hello everyone. You've got an extraordinarily distinguished panel, and hi CK, long time no see.
Yes.
This is disturbing to me, both as a lawyer and as an adult. I look at the legal trends in America, but then, as many of you do, I look at the legal trends in other countries and societies as well. And it's very disturbing to me that in all 50 states in the Union, a child can be tried as an adult. I've written two articles on this. One was that Americans speak with forked tongue when it comes to children and children's rights. And in that article, I said that we say and we give money to, all of us on this call do, on this broadcast, pardon me, on this broadcast do. We give money to Save the Children, Marian Wright Edelman, the Children's Just Defense Fund, all this stuff. We throw all this money at it, and we act like we really care about children. But when it comes to the criminal justice system, we ready to throw them out with the garbage. And I say that because in the article that I wrote, CK, I was actually speaking about issues regarding statutory rape. For example, suddenly I'm a child for purposes of a natural act, i.e., sex. It feels good. I like it. I like the guy. I did it because I wanted to do it. I'm not talking about forcible rape or any threats or intimidation. A whole different ballgame. I did it because I wanted to. So, but suddenly I'm a victim. And the young man that I'm with, I may be 14, like this young boy. He may be 18 or 17. But suddenly he is now convicted he's still a child himself. But now he's being tried as an adult. He's a rapist. But when it comes to cases like this, everyone, when a child does a heinous act, which is not a natural act, sex is it feels good, natural act, all that. This is a heinous act. Suddenly I'm an adult. I'm a 14-year-old adult. But if I was a 14-year-old girl or boy having sex with somebody that was 18, I'm a child. And my whole purpose in the article was to say America speaks with a forked tongue. On the one hand, we say save the children. On the other hand, we say hang them high. And that's a problem for me. It's like being a little bit pregnant. Either I am pregnant or I'm not pregnant. I can't be both. But the law has created this fallacy, this super world, this supernatural world, where you can punish people for as when you can decide, but it makes no sense. Either I'm a child or I'm an adult. This child, as you said, was 14 years old. First week in high school. He's been in middle school, never been there before, etc. But now everybody, oh yeah, we've got to hang him high. Let's hang him because of what he did. But that goes back to what I think is legal sophistry, because I really firmly do not believe in the prosecution of a child as an adult, period. Nor do I believe, and this may be controversial for some, that a 14-year-old cannot decide to have sex because she wanted to. Not forcible, nothing else, doesn't matter. But I just want this clear definition of what is a child and what is an adult. And the offense should not be the determinant factor. In my
Attorney Linda Bernard. I mean, a lot of people.
I'm sorry, I'm always
No, but I think I'm glad look, we're putting these ideas out here, so that we want to make some sense. Theo Hardeman, what do you see?
If he's a child, try him as a child. That's my only point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, what I'm looking at, Santita, is it's honor to be here with Dr. Marshall Hatch as well. It's one of my good friends. I just want to acknowledge my doctor there. That's right. So let me say this too. I would like to say it's the same profile all over again. You got the young white guy that his parents gave him a weapon of an automatic weapon or whatever the case may be. The young man has dealt with a lot of trauma early on in his life. And I agree with the young lady that just spoke. I don't think he should be tried as an adult because the trauma is trauma. I grew up in the heart of the ghetto. I grew up in the Henry Horner projects. Gunshots were being fired all around. A lot of people had drug addiction in their families, and a lot of crazy stuff was going on. That did not make me go shoot up the place, but what it did make me, I had a point in time in my life where my conscience level was not as high as it should be because I was desensitized to the suffering of people because I grew up around violence all my life, right? So the reality is that I've written a book now. It's titled Interrupting Gun Violence, the Public Health Approach. It's all about the thinking. So the signs were there. But see, in Chicago, we have mass shootings almost every weekend. We just had 4 people killed on the CTA Blue Line train in Forest Park. And it's not making as big news as it would make on a shooting like this because the profile is a white kid that was misguided for whatever reason. The same way the Highland Park mass shooting, apparently the father purchased a gun for his son. His son, used that gun to kill all those people. So in this situation, I noticed the father was so emotional while he was at court. He should be very emotional because he knows in his deeper spirit that he really misguided his son in some capacity. That young man needed some help. He needed help right away. I facilitate trainings on unaddressed trauma because hurt people, it's been proven that hurt people hurt other people. But there should be some research done when it comes down to gun laws. So maybe one of these elected officials, a very educated politician can enforce a law that, and I don't know what the law will be called, but if you have people in your household that have displayed some serious mental health conditions, we have to word it a certain way. I'm not a lawyer, we have to word it a certain way. Then you may not be able to purchase those guns. I know that might violate the Second Amendment, whatever the case may be, but we have to work in the field of preventing these type of mass shootings from taking place because lives have been lost. That young guy's about to go to the penitentiary. As soon as he becomes an adult, his father is just destroyed. The mother, they're looking to arrest the mother. The whole family has fallen down here. So that would be my take on it. But there's a profile out there for all those people that do research and, they study violence and all this and the profiles of shooters. This guy may have been on his way to becoming a sociopath. I'm not going to use the word psychopath for him, but I use the word sociopath based on the way he was being raised with his father. And then I tell you, a lot of young people, they don't know how to deal with trauma. They just don't know how to deal with it. So we have to get help. This young man needed some real serious help and he never received it. So he acted out. That's what he did, Santita.
Well, but that's why when we look around this panel, I have a lot of different voices here because there are various strains of expertise. And I'm going to close this segment with you, Pastor Hatch, because, hey, in the Bible, the last person you spoke to was the prophet, and that's where you are. But before we do, I want to go, and I'll come back to you, Linda, but I want to go to the psychologist, to Dr. LaShawn Latrice. And I want to know what you think, because you are a community psychologist. Quite honestly, I'd never heard of that until I met you. But I'm glad that I know because I said that makes a lot of sense. Because, Tio, we're an ecosystem. No man, no woman, no child is an island. Right. I mean, and one of the things that I must say, if there's any upside to this case, CK, they're looking at the family with the Crumbleys. They're looking at the family, but we've got to go further because we're not a society that supports families. Mm-hmm. In other countries, when a child is born, they send a nurse for months to help the mother and the father adjust. You get paid parental leave for mother and father. You get boxes of Pampers and formula, and we don't do any of that. We say we're anti-abortion. Yeah, right. Well, you abort the children before they even get here because you don't give the mama prenatal care. So there's a lot that's real off here, Dr. Latrice. So when you see this case, another back-to-school shooting, what do you see?
It's very disheartening. Good afternoon, everyone. It's very disheartening what we saw on yesterday. When I think about this shooting taking place, there are so many things wrong here. You have a 14-year-old who is a child, but you also have parents who have their own issues that somehow have been put on this child. And I don't see a lot of people focusing on the fact that whatever issues that they had that were unaddressed has definitely been transferred over to their children, which speaks to the systemic issues that exist in certain communities. I do think that there is a different component here, though. There is a certain level of understanding based on this shooter being a white individual. When we talk about mass shootings, as Tio just stated, in other communities, when there are offenders who are of our culture, our
Black
background,
and brown kids, I'll put
brown
it right
people,
there. Put that base
all
back
of
on
a
that voice,
sudden
girl.
the
You know
level
what's going
of
on here.
understanding and compassion is like completely out the window. We
Yeah.
don't hear much about the family background. We don't hear much about the traumatic issues suffered.
Mhm.
Clearly, this child has suffered PTSD, but his family had issues that they never addressed. So naturally, they were going to just pass down to the child anyway. But we're talking about a criminal aspect when a father buys a weapon for a child that he knows has psychological issues.
Dr.
That is
Latrice, hold on. Hold on. I'm trying to figure that out. Your child has issues. Law enforcement has visited you and your child, and you got by him an AR-15 for Christmas. What? How? Help me with that.
the thought of it makes no sense at all. And it shows you that if a father did purchase the weapon for his son, and the son was in fact already considered someone who was capable of doing this, that is criminal in and of itself. And he put his son in a position where he is now a criminal or considered doing a criminal act. But this shows you the level of PTSD that's existing in a lot of families in the structure, because they're willing to almost bypass the fact that it's not normal to buy a 14-year-old gun, let alone an AR-15.
That's not
In
true.
Georgia, it is
That's not true. I agree. That's not true. It is true that they get them at 10 and 12
right. In
I know
Georgia,
they get them. I
right.
know
and
they
But
get 'em.
nine.
in Georgia, I mean, just to tell you, not to interrupt,
That's
it
okay.
is completely not normal. It's completely ridiculous. It's completely crazy. But in Georgia, where I live, where I sit, it is very common. I can't tell you how many people, when I did commentary on the Ethan Cromley case, or even on this, which I've done recently, where they're like, well, I mean, the fact that the father got a gun, there are people that go hunting and go to the shooting range together, just as Ethan Cromley and his family did. That is part of, like, we go to the park, we go for a walk, we go camping together, we go to the shooting range, we shoot. That is very common in certain households, especially in places like Georgia. It's amazing. So to us, it's to me, it's stunning, it's shocking, it's unacceptable, it's crazy. I'll use the word crazy, but to many people here in Georgia, it's like, because we're an open carry. You can carry a gun and be in church, be in school, be in the grocery store. I can't tell you how many times I feel unsafe in basic places, going to the grocery store, walking down the street, doing anything, because I can see people's guns. That makes me feel very uneasy, very unsafe. But that is Georgia.
Well, I mean,
But
it's
CK,
normal,
it's not.
but it's
But it's not just
unhealthy.
Georgia. It's not just Georgia, because in Maryland, where I am, I grew up with guns. My parents had guns for me. So I don't think it's unusual for a child to be
Right.
exposed to guns or any of that. It's not something that's unique to Georgia.
Nope.
I don't. I think that children with guns, is dependent upon where you live in your family structure. My father was a drill sergeant. You know, you can be around guns, but it's what you learn, and it's what you're going through as the individual. I think is where it begins to start to separate everything. Because if you're a child that has issues and you're a parent that's given a child with issues access to weapons, that's the problem. The weapon itself is not the problem if you think it's a responsible child.
Well,
You may
Dr.
not know the kid has an issue. Kids
Mhm.
kids don't tell their parents anything. They're on their phones
Yep.
But in
and
this case,
computers.
it was different, correct? They knew that their son had some
Well,
issues. The
no,
parent,
the only thing we know about this that I read about, and you may know this as well, is that the mother is a junkie. And they're looking for her. There's an arrest warrant out for her, but she's been a long-term junkie. She's on meth. What's that drug they bring across the border, Santita?
Well,
That, yeah,
well,
all of these.
but
She's on a bunch of
also,
drugs.
We also
well,
know that the
also
father had, he
domestic
testified to,
violence,
yeah.
right? In the
Well,
house.
the father testified today or in court. He said the judge asked him, which is really amazing. The judge asked him his educational level. He said he had a 11th grade education and a GED. Now, me, myself, and I've never heard a judge ask that question. All the Black folks that get into a courtroom, I'm not talking about we're in trial and he's a witness and is taking the stand. I'm just saying that was just a conversation that the judge had with him.
Smart man.
Well, but again, they're humanizing them, which is perfectly fine. But I don't see that same kind of, I don't see that granted to Black and brown parents. They're pathologized. I want to understand what happened with this boy because I don't want it to happen again. But we don't do that with anyone else. I'm watching this commercial, Walk a Mile in My Shoes, and it's this beautiful, great singer, great commercial. But I was talking with you a little bit earlier, Dr. Latrice. I said, do you know that this is to encourage us to accept people who are immigrating to the country? See, when the establishment wants to establish a particular message, that's what they do, right? And so now they're opening the door to migrants. We'll be talking about that next week. We've opened the door to a lot of violence. I mean, people look at us as the most violent people on earth. That's we've killed a lot of people. Our military has done that. I mean, we have coups. We do all of this. It seems like Dr. King did say that the bombs we drop overseas are exploding at home. Reverend Dr. Hatch, what do you see? I mean, how do we talk to our children about this? Because I mean, it's not in my own life's experience. And I grew up with people who were trying to kill my father. I grew up with security 24/7, 365. Someone who had a gun drove my brothers, my sister, and I to school every day. Every day. That's the kind of life I lived. That having been said, my parents would let my brothers play with G.I. Joes. Because they said, no, we don't want war. You're not supposed to kill anybody. Dr. Hatch, Reverend Dr. Hatch, Pastor Hatch, what say you? This is happening a lot, Pastor Hatch.
Yeah, I mean, and the narrative, even given this conversation, is the reoccurring instance where you have parents buying guns for their
Pastor Hatch, you're going in and out. One, Pastor Hatch, and in the meantime, while we get your audio together, yes, D. Ray Jones said at 14, the kid had no business with no AR-15. I heard you. Oh, he just dropped out, but he had no business. Tio,
yes,
who buys their child? Look, I mean, Daryl. Hey, people hunt, and all of that, and so, and it's and it's not just culture. It depends on where you live, right? So okay, but an AR-15, that's a whole.
But that's why we pushing that people don't really need automatic weapons, Santita, and that's a real big argument with the gun lobby, right? So it's back and forth. Everybody have their point of view. Texas, you open carry. Wisconsin, open carry. But you have, and so the thing about it, so I know the young lady was talking about when she see all the guns there in Georgia, it kind of like frightens her to a degree. But if you look at me in Chicago, when I'm around a lot of people with guns, it doesn't frighten me at all. I mean, that's just the way I was raised. Not that we have open carry in Chicago. It just became a way of life. It's a lifestyle. And some people with guns, they're not crazy though. That's why it never frightened me. A lot of those guys were my friends, so I know it wasn't going to be no issue because I know they had control of what the guns they had. But also, there's no evidence. There's no empirical evidence or data that dictates the fact that legal gun owners are really part of the overall gun violence problem across America. So we have to kind of weigh, it's a balance there, you see. But purchasing an automatic weapon for a 14-year-old is dead wrong, especially you got, but then again, think about it. The father wasn't thinking right. The mother wasn't thinking right. So what do you expect? You see, that's expected behavior from people that are living with trauma. That's the best way I can break it down. And people may not like what I'm about to say, but I feel for the young guy personally. I hope, I don't know what's going to happen to him, but he's 14.
Why do you feel for him?
Because I know so many young African-American brothers that I work with. I volunteer to Cook County Jail every Friday with young guys 18 years old. I've been to the juvenile detention centers, and you hear the stories of how these young guys grew up with no food. They grew up being beat up by their stepfathers. They watched their mother being strung out on cocaine, and then they end up robbing somebody, and they may be gone for the rest of their lives. I'm not making an excuse for them, but I understand the mindset and the trauma that was never addressed properly, and what happens, these kids get sent off the cliff. That's why I feel for him.
But I don't have a problem with that. I just want the compassion to be evenly spread, because we go to the jail, throughout the year, certainly every Christmas. Yes. And this is when you hear their stories.
Yeah, you hear the stories, right?
Oh, that's how we met Judge Greg Mathis. Judge Greg Mathis had a brother who sold drugs and another one who was a crack addict. And guess what? While he was in law school, he was living with them both.
Yeah.
But he decided to go another way. But he also had support from Reverend Annette Rainwater. He had built, because he was trying, other people came in. And I'm wondering, is this boy beyond redemption?
No.
No. I don't think he's beyond redemption at all.
Well, okay.
So do you think he should be in prison for life?
I have a different view.
No, that's fine. That's what we're here for.
Everybody. No, that's what I'm with you. Thank you, Tio.
That's right.
What we're here for. Should he be in prison? So, I want to go around to everybody. Should he be in prison for life? Tio Hardiman.
I don't think he should be in prison for life. The same way with other young people. I don't think they should. They deserve a second chance. Now, he should do about 20 years, though. Don't get me wrong. See, I teach in the field of restorative justice as well. It's not about being soft on crime. But the reality, he should do some time. Yeah.
But 20 years in prison? Will he get well in prison?
No.
Well, I can't say he's going to get well in prison. I say this much, but he deserves to do some time. He took 4 lives. We cannot just sweep that under the rug. No
question. But I'm just saying, in prison. Institution.
There's no rehabilitation in prison, without a doubt. As soon as he turns 18, he'll probably go to a maximum security penitentiary where he'll be locked in a cell 23 hours a day, and that's inhumane as well. So, the beat goes on. This young man needed help. He did not receive the help. And when he has to do some time, just put it like that. I believe he needs to do some time in prison, but not life. I wouldn't want to see the young guy receive a life sentence.
CK's about to jump through the camera.
That's right.
Come on, CK.
Well, no. This is the thing. Look, I have sons, and this can happen to. This is my perspective. This can happen to anyone in any family. I don't care what your socioeconomic background is. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, there's trauma. We're in a country in crisis. So all those kids in that school have now been traumatized.
For sure.
So let me just talk about trauma. But what I will say is this. There's some people, I don't know about this child. I don't know. But there are some children, some people who have no conscience for whatever reason.
Like that movie, The Bad Seed.
Right. Who just have no conscience. I don't know. But I do know that there's some kind of something going on where a child.
Wait a minute. What? What did you just say?
Well. So I was not being perfectly articulate.
That's right. I don't think he was a psychopath, though.
I'm not sure based on what you said.
Wait a minute. Let me let CK finish.
That's right.
Okay, so I did not quite articulate that it's reflective of my educational background. But something's going on. And I don't know if he is or isn't a psychopath. I really just don't know. But I do believe, I agree with Tio Hardiman, he's got to do time. Mm-hmm. Because he took 4 lives, and the way he did it was so methodical. He was very, very cold-hearted and methodical. And that's just based on what we know to date. I bet when that onion is peeled back, there are probably other instances of things that happened, and maybe he was abused. I don't know what his trauma is. But I think that we cannot just say, well, let's just keep him in an environment and hope for rehabilitation for a few years. No, he needs to go to jail. Because those children, those parents, when they sent their child to school that day, they expect their child will come home. And now their child will never come home. Never. So who's to blame for that? They're all to blame. The whole family's to blame. And I'm not dispassionate. I'm someone who's an advocate on behalf of children. I don't like the fact that Black and brown children are treated differently. But with certain types of acts, I think that people need to be punished for them.
Okay.
See, now, whether he goes away for life or not, because what he's facing here in Georgia, first of all, he's going to be tried as an adult. That's already determined. This ain't going to be no, well, we're going to try as an adult. That's already been determined. For him, he's facing either life with parole or life without parole. The only thing that he won't face is the death penalty. That's it in Georgia. So either he's going away for life or and has a chance of coming out, or he's going away to life and he will never come out. That's basically what this child is facing.
Okay.
Okay.
Hold on. Brain hasn't developed. That is a whole lot. I'm not saying he should go away for life, but I'm not saying we need to be lenient, because see what happened after that. There were a whole bunch of other examples, other people calling in and threatening in the Atlanta metropolitan area that they were going to shoot up a school. You see what I'm saying? So we are in a crisis. What do we do with crises? We have to treat it. And I looked at those parents running, literally running, praying and crying and yelling for their children because they didn't know if their children were dead. I mean, that is trauma beyond trauma. I feel traumatized watching it on TV. And so imagine those parents. So here in Atlanta now we've got 15, 20 schools where there have been these kind of threats. So we are a country in crisis. We're a state in crisis. We're a community in crisis. And that is where we are. And I think part of it, yes, is mental health. But I don't know about this child. But there's some people who are psychotic, who are and who have very serious mental issues.
For sure.
You know what? But Dr. Latrice, angry people hurt other people. Sick people hurt themselves. We just, I mean, because we keep trying to make this mental, because you
didn't hurt himself.
This makes it.
He didn't turn it
bad.
on himself.
But what I'm saying, but I'm saying he's a product of a highly dysfunctional environment. And so
that's what
I'm saying. Let it
of our kids.
But that's what I'm saying.
Pass for me just because he's a product of
what I'm saying to you is
home or something.
What I'm with you, CK. But what I'm saying, therefore what I'm saying to you is that we continue. I think we're sweeping a lot of our sicknesses as a society, Dr. Latrice. I've got to go to Pastor Hatch first under the rug by saying, "Oh, this is mental illness." No. Some people are mean. Right. There's something called evil and wickedness.
That's right.
Now, and that's what we're dealing with. And nobody wants to deal with a sick society. Nobody. It's a sick society. We don't believe in diplomacy. We are underwriting a genocide in the Middle East right now. And more than 200,000 Gazans have been killed. And we're cool with that. Now, come on. And the record shows that America has killed 300 million people in the history of our republic. Yes, we've done that. We're responsible for that. Stop it. These bombs that we are dropping overseas are exploding right here, because many of these folks, their parents, they're traumatized. Their fathers and mothers are coming home with moral injury from war. Nobody wants to talk about that. Pastor Hatch, we finally have you back. You know, I gotta get a hallelujah, a word.
Thank you. Listen, I don't know why my camera isn't on, but
no, it does not matter. We hear your voice.
Yeah, this is, this is spiritual, and what's been themed, of course, is that you have a parent again, this time buying a child a gun for Christmas to celebrate the birth of Christ. I'll buy you a gun. And so you have a whole nation now where there are more guns than people. It is the idolatry of arms, and it is we're arming ourselves, and this bleeds right into your next segment. Of course, the United States spends more money on weaponry, on so-called defense, more than the next 10 nations combined. And so we're arming literally for World War III nationally and across the globe. And here at home, we're arming for the coming boogaloo, the Civil War. And so uh, it has bled down to the children, where you have obviously a sickness of a celebration of violence, of murder, and of the act of violence that in schools as a way of giving your life meaning. And so this bleeds into where we're headed, and it is not going to be a pretty future.
Right.
That is going to end up being, when you look at the political volatility with people who think that they should arm their children, then obviously the country is headed toward a bloodbath. And it is, this is what Dr. King warned us about prophetically, that as we celebrate militarism, um, commercialism, really the idolatry of things, and then, of course, racism, where we dehumanize people, it's not going to be a good outcome at the end. Sad to say.
Yeah. And
Well, I only have like 7 or 8 minutes left, but so CK, this can be that, and your well, I guess that's
I'm
thought,
breathing,
because we can't.
I'm breathing and exhaling, and I'm going to speak in proper English. I know there were moments that was unintelligible. And I
No,
do
you're okay. We understand.
No, wait a minute. We understood you. I was just having
Right.
fun with you. But I also understand that you're attorney CK Hoffler, but you've also got 2 sons.
I do have sons, and I have to tell you, this breaks my heart. As a human being, no matter this child's color, it breaks my heart. I will say this, though. I will say this, is we are having to brace ourselves for, we're such a divided country. No matter what happens with the elections, people are preparing and bracing themselves for something. Now, I will say this. Let's listen out to see if there's a narrative about that school. That school is a very diverse school. Let's listen out to see if the narrative of what his father was telling him was something about, you need to protect yourself against the brown to the black to the yellow, all of these other kids that are taking over your school. Let's just listen out to see
if that's what it
where
was.
in this narrative there is that. Because I do not believe it's a coincidence that the only children that were killed were black and brown.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence. And of course, the teachers who were killed were probably trying to shield and protect the children. But I do not, and maybe I'm just seeing something that doesn't exist, but I live here. But let's just wait.
No, wait. You're from the United States of America. We know how this works.
Right.
No, come on. I mean, and this is where we got to stop playing these games. We're never going to get well if we continue to shovel all this stuff up under the rug. Because when I saw that it was a black boy and a brown boy, I said, You can't help but do that. When I saw 2 white teachers, I said, because I had that same thought ran through my head. And I don't know about the other 9 victims, but I do know a boy like Colt Gray, who's so out to pasture. He's someone who's vulnerable to all of the sicknesses of our society, because he does not feel like he's worthy of anything. He's been treated like trash all of his life because his parents feel like the mother is a drug addict. The father has problems. You can see they're a very troubled family, but we're a troubled American family too. But I need to run around and get about 30 seconds from everybody. We're going to be talking about this election coming up in the next hour, because Kamala Harris is raking in the dough, everybody. Record amounts of cash. And yet The polling numbers are not quite matching up. Yeah, has she gained traction where Biden was hemorrhaging support, but she still needs much more support in the Black community. How can she get it? What is the holdup? Will she be able to get the uncommitted delegates? What about the Arab American vote? She's going to need every vote she can get in a tighter than this election. So, Tio Hardeman, 30 seconds for you.
Well, it's just more the same. I agree. I appreciate this conversation today, and I pray for the best. I pray for the family members of the victims of the violence there in Georgia and all across the United States. I believe Georgia needs some stricter gun laws. After thinking about it, needs some stricter gun laws. That's the only thing I can say right now. And everybody needs help. And like the young lady was saying, a lot of families grew up dysfunctional. And I'm a perfect example of a dysfunctional family. Trust me, if I told my story, you would think I would be up under the jail somewhere, but I didn't make them kind of mistakes, even though I grew up in a whole lot of crazy stuff. And it is what it is, right? But that's what makes America the land of opportunity for some as well. See, and you don't have to fall victim to your circumstances all the time. But that was a 14-year-old, so I'm not going to hold that. I hold the shooting against him, the action that he took. I just wish he would have received some help. That's the only thing I can say.
Well, you know, what did my father say? I was born in the slums, but the slums were not born in me.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say.
No. You did say it because you lived it.
Yes,
and that's the powerful testimony.
Yes.
30 seconds, Attorney Linda Bernard, 30 seconds.
Oh, just very, very quickly. This is one case, one child. I can't go into, dissertations about society and so forth at large. This child has to be evaluated in terms of mental culpability. You stated, I think CK stated she watched the hearing and the child had no emotion. For a 14-year-old to watch his father overcome with emotion and he have no reaction to that tells me that he has totally intellectually and mentally isolated himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is not, his body's present, his mind is not.
And
so,
you know what?
There are all kinds of evaluations that have got to take place with respect to this kid and everything. And all of us were raised with guns in the house. Maybe not you, Santita,
No,
with guns in the house. We knew not to touch our father's guns. There are other issues here. I think I'm a Catholic, I'm sorry. Reverend Hatch mentioned it. We were taught right from wrong. We don't touch daddy's gun. We don't do that. So that's the difference here.
Sure. But so with this boy,
the weapon itself. It's not the weapon.
30 seconds, but you can see him cut himself off. You can only imagine thinking of his mother being beaten, his mother taking drugs, his father doing the beating. Does he have a job? Does he not have a job? Is he stable? I'm sure he had to emotionally disassociate himself to make it from day to day. And look at what we've produced. Daryl Jones, 30 seconds for you. Every Tuesday, you are on WOL at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. CK Hoffler is on Court TV. We need to get her a show there. But she is also on WAOK every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Had to say it. Daryl, 30 seconds.
Thanks so much, Santita. And I certainly stand with Linda with regards to Linda Bernard, Attorney Bernard, with regards to the guns. The guns are not the problem. It's the parents that get them the guns for children and not supervising them or knowing they have issues and not taking the proper care and precaution at that point in time. Let me come off of my prosecutor hat real quick. I'm listening to all the talk with regard to Colt and how, he's gone through all these emotional trauma. He's done this, he's done that. The prosecutor is an elected prosecutor that's there to protect the community, for the safety of the community. That's the prosecutor's number one concern. The person that's going to concentrate on the other stuff that you're now mentioning, that's the defense attorney's responsibility. The prosecutor has got to protect the community, and they need to do everything they can to be certain that they receive the maximum sentence that they can end this case for this kid. And if the parents culpable, at the parents, because it's teaching the lesson not simply to this situation of protecting the community, but it's also the deterrent effect for parents that aren't doing what they should be doing for their children.
And then, these parents who are this sick need support too. You got to love the whole person and the whole family. We've got to do right. I'm going to let you close this out, Pastor Hatch, but Dr. LaShawn Latrice, 30 seconds.
Just want to go back and recap in my 30 seconds. I don't want it to be overshadowed the fact that there is a level of compassion for young people that commit violent crimes who are white versus those who are black and brown. I also don't want to dismiss the fact that 2 individuals were chosen that were shot that were black and brown people. I also want to talk about the fact that everything does not hinge only on mental illness. It also is spiritual wickedness. When I think about Ephesians 6 and 12, we
Come on
wrestle
now.
not against flesh and blood,
That's
but
right.
against
Spiritual
spiritual
wickedness and
wickedness,
high places.
powers, against those things that are darkness of the world. And when I say that, what I mean is when you're talking about afflictions of drug abuse, of alcohol abuse, and a child being abandoned from love, that emotional support and being absent from that entire community. Just imagine going into an environment where that's being pumped or bred into them. So just like CK said earlier, what's the narrative? Was somebody telling him to protect himself? Was he being raised to be against a certain group? We don't know those factors or anything, but what we do know is we live in a world that has 2 separate sets of compassion. And I'm like you all, I'm throwing away the shovels. Tired of moving all the bull out the way. At the end of the day, we need to call things as though as they are. Let's stop sugarcoating. Let's stop acting like there's not a separate set of feelings for the way certain things are. This was a heinous act altogether in and of itself. But when we talk about the punishment, we talk about what has been done, there are people who are complicit in what was done. So right now, we can't dismiss that as fact at all.
Now, I truly have 30 seconds because that was absolutely brilliant. But I truly, Pastor Hatch, you know how to wrap it up. That's what preachers do. Put their
Well,
foot on the thing.
Dr. LaShawn has already quoted the word. And so obviously, individuals are responsible for their actions, and that's clear in this case. But the wickedness is in the high places. And of course, it flows down, and there's a lot of repenting that needs to start at the top if there's going to be a revival and if there's going to be any deliverance.
Well, amen.
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 Come on. Well, now see, I got an amen from everybody here except Daryl.
Amen.
Okay. See, that's all right. I saw that head down. You better lift it up, you heathen. Coming up in the next hour.
Amen and amen.
Yeah, let me get my Bible.
Right. You know you have that app on your phone. Santita Jackson Show, second hour. Let's talk about election 2024. Kamala Harris is raising money, but she got to raise these poll numbers too. Let's talk about it in the next hour. Click on over, everybody. Love you so much.
Peace.
AM 950 Radio.